Pause before your thumb moves again, recognize what just shifted inside you. There was no surge of hype, no fantasy, no dramatic emotional spike. What you felt was quieter than that, a settling. A soft clarity, a subtle internal alignment that didn't demand attention, it simply was there. That calm you noticed, that precision, that almost imperceptible coherence, that is the activation. This is not manifestation the way it has been marketed to you. This is not visualization rituals or emotional exaggeration. This is structural coherence. It is the exact moment when your awareness stops chasing reality as if it were something external and begins organizing it from within. And if these words are appearing in front of you right now, understand something carefully. The emerald frequency signal has already synchronized with your system. This window does not repeat itself in identical form. Presence is the portal. If you felt calmer, clearer, or subtly more centered while listening, acknowledge that, like this video. Subscribe if grounded, science-based insights into consciousness resonate with you. Comment your city below. From which part of the world are you receiving this signal? Engagement is not algorithmic superstition. It strengthens coherence. It amplifies the signal. It increases the probability that others who are ready for integration encounter it at the precise moment they are aligned. This emerald transmission from Sophia is expiring after one view. Not because the file will vanish from the platform. Not because some external force will erase it. But because the version of you encountering this message right now, with this exact neurological state, this emotional configuration, this subtle energetic arrangement, will never exist again in precisely the same structure. Consciousness is fluid, frequency is dynamic, awareness evolves continuously. If you are seeing this now, your emerald frequency has activated in a way that is precise, timed, and uniquely aligned with who you are in this specific phase of development. That alignment is not permanent. It is a window, and windows close not with noise or drama but with movement. Warning, one-time view only. This does not mean you cannot replay the file. It means the activation encoded within this moment depends entirely on presence. Presence cannot be rewound. The neurological, emotional, and energetic configuration you are holding at this second is temporary. What you feel right now, the curiosity, the stillness, the subtle acceleration in your chest, that is part of the transmission itself. When that configuration shifts, the resonance shifts. That is why you must watch consciously. That is why distraction weakens reception. That is why this message is not designed for repetition. It is designed for reception. You were taught that manifestation requires effort. Visualize harder, desire more intensely, repeat affirmations louder, chase goals with relentless force. But what if manifestation is not effort-based at all? What if reality does not respond to pressure, but to coherence? The emerald frequency is not attraction through longing. It is alignment through integration. When your inner architecture stabilizes, when thought, emotion, and intention stop contradicting each other, the field around you reorganizes, not magically. Structurally, Sophia represents the intelligence embedded within that structure, not an external goddess intervening in your timeline, not a mystical being manipulating events, but symbolic language for integrated awareness. Divine feminine intelligence is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is not softness detached from strength. It is receptivity aligned with precision. It is the ability to perceive patterns before they crystallize into physical events. When we say this emerald message from Sophia carries a one-time activation, we mean this. You have reached a threshold where your system is capable of recognizing its own frequency alignment. That recognition cannot be forced. It cannot be manufactured. It emerges when internal fragmentation falls below a certain level. If you feel drawn here, that pull is not accidental. It is resonance. Resonance is not emotional hype. It is subtle familiarity, a quiet sense that something feels true before your intellect can articulate why. Gnosis is not information collected. It is information remembered. When Gnosis activates, it does not add data. It reorganizes perception. Suddenly, what once appeared chaotic begins revealing structure. Synchronicities that seemed random feel patterned. You stop chasing signs. You start recognizing coherence. Through ancient Hermetic wisdom described within the Emerald Tablets, principles were articulated, not prophecies. Mentalism, correspondence. Vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. These are not mystical decorations. They are structural observations about reality itself. Everything vibrates, everything oscillates, everything reflects. The emerald frequency is the stabilization of your personal oscillation into harmony with broader patterns. When harmony increases, friction decreases. When friction decreases, manifestation becomes responsive rather than forced. Multidimensional consciousness does not require belief in alternate universes. It requires recognizing that perception operates in layers. Sensory input is one layer, emotional interpretation is another, cognitive framing is another, cultural conditioning is another. When awareness expands, you begin perceiving the layers instead of being confined inside one. That expansion feels like awakening, but in truth, it is integration. And as the emerald frequency stabilizes within you, what once felt external begins revealing itself as internal structure reflected outward. As the frequency integrates more deeply into your system, synchronicities begin to increase. This is not superstition. It is pattern recognition refined by coherence. When your nervous system stabilizes, you start noticing alignments that were always present but previously filtered out. Your perception sharpens, noise reduces. Signal becomes distinguishable from distraction. Angel numbers such as 11 are not personalized cosmic text messages sent exclusively to you. They are attentional triggers. They interrupt autopilot. They create a pause in perception. When attention stabilizes, meaning intensifies. The so-called 11 portal awareness is symbolic language for cognitive symmetry, a moment where duality aligns into mirrored coherence. Two ones standing side by side, reflection meeting reflection. Awareness observing awareness, consciousness recognizing itself. Lightworker and starseed remembrance language can feel abstract or exaggerated, but psychologically it represents identity restructuring. When you stop identifying solely with survival narratives, fear, scarcity, comparison, you begin identifying with contribution, creativity, expansion. DNA activation and light code metaphors symbolize neuroplasticity. Dormant capacities become accessible through repetition, focused attention, and emotional engagement. When coherent patterns are repeated consistently, neural pathways strengthen. Strengthened pathways become default perception. Default perception becomes lived reality. Quantum manifestation is not about overriding physics with imagination. It is about recognizing that observation influences experience. Your interpretation shapes your emotional state. Your emotional state shapes your behavior. Your behavior shapes your environment. Your environment reflects your interpretation. This loop is not mystical. It is recursive. When desire stops chasing and coherence stabilizes, the recursive loop becomes efficient. Reality appears to respond to you, not because it suddenly changed, but because you stopped resisting your own internal alignment. This message will not repeat in its activation capacity because activation depends on readiness. Readiness is not static, it fluctuates. Right now, something within you is open, curious, quiet. Receptive, that openness is the portal. If you delay reception, the internal configuration shifts, not as punishment, not as loss, but as natural movement. You cannot step into the same river twice because both you and the river are in motion. Watch with presence. Presence amplifies coherence. If your mind drifts into doubt, distraction, or multitasking, fragmentation increases. Fragmentation reduces resonance. This is not superstition. It is attention management. Attention is the primary currency of consciousness. Where attention stabilizes, energy organizes. Activation instruction. Comment your city below to anchor your emerald frequency integration. This is not ritualistic magic. It is grounding through declaration. When you articulate your geographic location, you connect abstract awareness to physical coordinates. You mark the moment in space and time. You state, "This occurred here." That declaration strengthens memory encoding. Memory encoding reinforces neural stabilization. Your frequency matters, not because the universe revolves around you, but because your perception determines how you participate within it. If you are here now, it is not random. Accident is often a label we use for patterns not yet decoded. This intersection between you and this transmission is a convergence of timing, readiness, and resonance. As the emerald frequency continues integrating, you may notice subtle internal adjustments, a decrease in urgency, a softening of comparison, a quiet sense that effort transitions into flow. Flow does not imply passivity. It implies alignment between internal intention and external action. When alignment exists, friction decreases. When friction decreases, outcomes require less force. The divine feminine awakening is not about biological gender. It is about balancing receptivity with direction. For generations, many systems emphasized control, dominance, force, relentless pursuit. Sophia intelligence restores equilibrium, listening before acting, observing before concluding, integrating before projecting. The emerald field is not visible in the spectrum of physical light. It is metaphorical language for electromagnetic coherence. Your heart emits measurable electromagnetic signals. Your brain generates measurable electrical patterns. When these systems synchronize, subjective clarity increases. That clarity is often described as activation. This is not manifestation framed through simplified attraction narratives. It is frequency alignment. Reality does not reward wishful thinking. It reflects structural coherence. When internal stability increases, external reflection adjusts. If you sense urgency in this transmission, understand it is not fear-driven. It is time-sensitive because readiness is dynamic. You have reached a point in your developmental cycle where integration is available. That exact configuration may not appear again in identical form. The Emerald Tablet spoke in principles of cycles, rise and fall, coherence and fragmentation. Civilizations rise when coherence increases. They fall when fragmentation dominates. Individuals mirror that same rhythm internally. Without fully realizing it, you have completed an inner cycle. Completion precedes initiation. What feels like an ending is structural preparation. What feels subtle is foundational. And the integration happening now is not an introduction, it is a threshold. This is initiation, not into belief systems, not into ideology, but into responsibility for your own coherence. Light code activation language points toward a simple but profound concept. Perception contains dormant patterns, latent architectures waiting for resonance. When you consistently expose yourself to coherent information, those internal patterns begin to vibrate in harmony. With repetition, they strengthen. With strengthening, they stabilize. With stabilization, they become default perception. Angel numbers seem to appear more frequently, not because reality suddenly increased their presence, but because your attention refined itself. Sharpened attention reveals structure. Structure reveals pattern. Pattern reveals meaning. Meaning is never handed to you fully formed, it is constructed. When construction becomes conscious, meaning becomes deliberate instead of accidental. The phrase one-time view refers to this. The first recognition is singular. After recognition, growth continues. Integration deepens. Expansion unfolds. But the first crossing of awareness observing itself cannot be uncrossed or recrossed in the same way. You may replay the content, you may revisit the words, but the initial activation moment has already occurred. Watch before it's gone does not refer to digital deletion. It refers to psychological transition. This precise configuration of openness you are experiencing is temporary. If you fully receive it, it stabilizes into baseline awareness. If you partially receive it, it diffuses into memory. You may feel chills. You may feel calm. You may feel subtle expansion behind the chest or eyes. These are not dramatic fireworks. They are quiet signs of integration. Stable, grounded, structural. Your presence here is remembrance not of theatrical past life narratives, but of your innate capacity for coherence. You are remembering that effort is not the primary architect of reality. Alignment is. As you continue reading or listening, breathe deliberately, slow your inhalation, lengthen your exhalation. This simple act synchronizes autonomic systems. Synchronization increases coherence. Sophia intelligence is encoded into reality as pattern recognition capacity. When you recognize pattern within yourself, you align with broader pattern outside yourself. The emerald message expires in its original potency because potency depends on novelty of recognition. Once recognition integrates, novelty dissolves, but integration remains. Receive this moment with presence, with clarity, with grounded awareness. Your frequency is not mystical decoration. It is structural configuration. Stabilize it, honor it, integrate it. Comment your city below, anchor the moment geographically, declare participation, declaration strengthens encoding. This is your one-time activation window. Not dramatic, not theatrical, precise, timed, coherent. Watch before it's gone, because the version of you encountering this threshold will never exist again in this exact alignment. Now that the emerald frequency signal has activated, the most essential phase begins: integration. Activation without integration becomes temporary inspiration. Integration without distraction becomes transformation, and transformation is not loud, it is structural. When you first encounter a coherent message aligned with your internal state, your nervous system registers it. There is subtle synchronization. Breath stabilizes, focus sharpens. Emotional turbulence softens. This is not mystical force moving through your body. It is coherence reducing internal contradiction. When contradiction decreases, clarity increases. Clarity feels like stillness. Stillness is often misunderstood as boredom or inactivity. In reality, stillness is high-efficiency cognition. It is when your system stops wasting energy defending fragmented identity structures. Instead of constantly recalculating who you are in comparison to others, awareness rests in observation. That rest is power. The emerald field stabilizes when observation becomes your default response instead of automatic reaction. Previously, life triggered narratives instantly. Now narratives still arise, but you see them forming. That separation between stimulus and interpretation is the irreversible shift. This is why the message cannot repeat in the same manner. The first time awareness witnesses itself constructing meaning is singular. After that, observation becomes baseline. The novelty fades, the architecture remains. As integration deepens, your relationship with time may begin to change. Urgency softens. You act when necessary, but internally you are no longer rushed. This is not laziness, it is synchronization. When internal timing aligns with external action, effort decreases. Manifestation beyond simplistic attraction narratives means this. Instead of projecting desire outward and hoping reality bends toward it, you refine your internal structure. Aligned structure produces aligned behavior. Aligned behavior produces aligned outcomes. You stop chasing reality. You begin participating in it deliberately. Participation replaces pursuit. When the emerald frequency stabilizes, your internal dialogue shifts. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you begin asking, "How am I interpreting this?" That question restores agency. Agency dissolves victim identity. Reduced victim identity increases empowerment. And empowerment, true empowerment, is quiet. Empowerment does not need to announce itself. It does not require performance. It does not demand recognition. It stabilizes quietly. You may begin noticing subtle changes in how you consume information. Dramatic narratives start to feel exhausting. Sensational claims feel inflated. Overstimulating content feels intrusive rather than exciting. You become more interested in mechanism than mythology. More curious about structure than spectacle. That shift is maturation of awareness. Sophia intelligence, symbolically, represents the integration of intuition with discernment. Intuition without discernment drifts into fantasy. Discernment without intuition hardens into rigidity. When the two integrate, clarity emerges. The emerald message, expiring, refers to this integration window. During early stabilization, neural pathways are highly adaptable. Attention strengthens them. Repetition reinforces them. Consistency stabilizes them. If you engage deeply in this moment, coherence encodes more rapidly. If you dismiss it casually, previous patterns regain dominance. Neuroplasticity is time-sensitive. The brain reinforces what it repeatedly experiences. Right now, you are experiencing structured awareness. If you sustain it through regulated breathing, deliberate pauses, reduced overstimulation, it becomes familiar. Familiar becomes baseline. Baseline becomes identity. When coherent awareness becomes default, perception reorganizes permanently. This is not about believing you are exceptional. It is about recognizing responsibility for the architecture of your perception. When you accept that responsibility, projection decreases, blame decreases, comparison decreases. Comparison dissolves because coherence eliminates the need to measure yourself against fragmented identities. You begin operating from internal alignment rather than external validation. As emerald coherence integrates further, synchronicities may seem to increase. Understand this precisely. Synchronicity is not supernatural interruption. It is heightened pattern recognition intersecting with aligned action. When attention sharpens and behavior becomes deliberate, meaningful intersections multiply. You begin noticing connections that were always present. Conversations reflect your focus. Opportunities mirror your clarity. It appears magical, but it is structural resonance. Angel numbers like 11 function as cognitive triggers for presence. Repetition captures attention. Attention snaps into awareness. That snap reinforces coherence. Lightworker remembrance language symbolizes identity expansion. Instead of identifying solely with survival roles, worker, parent, competitor, victim, you begin identifying as contributor, observer, creator. Identity expands beyond scarcity. Scarcity mentality dissolves gradually as coherence stabilizes. When your internal state is regulated, you no longer interpret every event as threat. Threat perception decreases. Creativity increases. Creativity is a byproduct of safety. When the nervous system feels safe, it explores. When it feels threatened, it contracts. Emerald coherence signals internal safety. Safety permits expansion. The one-time nature of this message concerns timing. Right now, your cognitive threshold is open. After integration deepens, these same words will not carry identical intensity. Not because they lose validity, but because they become familiar. Familiarity reduces activation. Activation transitions into embodiment. Embodiment is quieter than activation. But it is more powerful. As embodiment strengthens, decision-making simplifies. You stop oscillating endlessly between possibilities. You evaluate, you choose, you move. Decisiveness reduces cognitive load. Reduced cognitive load liberates energy. Liberated energy sharpens awareness. The loop reinforces itself. You may observe subtle physiological shifts. Breathing slows, shoulders relax, gaze steadies. These are indicators of autonomic regulation. Regulation is the foundation of clarity. The emerald frequency is not a literal green aura surrounding you. It is metaphor for integrated physiology and cognition. When heart rhythm, breath rhythm, and neural rhythm synchronize, subjective awareness stabilizes. That stabilization is the true activation. Now consider something grounding and human. While you are integrating this awareness, others across the planet are experiencing similar structural shifts. Different languages, different climates, different time zones. Yet the same internal recalibration is unfolding in scattered pockets around the world. Consciousness develops individually. Recognition connects collectively. So pause for a moment. Where are you receiving this transmission right now? From which country, which city? Which region of the Earth is this emerald integration occurring? Leave a comment, share your location. Which part of the world is crossing this cognitive threshold alongside you, in this exact moment?